What's up, everybody? We're back for more Let's Play Dot Hack GU, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Last time I said I was hoping we could do some more story stuff in this episode, but we're not. We're gonna keep doing some training. we start off, just, alchemizing some weapons, no big deal, and then we're actually going to go to one of our, I know I said this over and over again, that, there was no need to go to one of the areas that you got through a forum post, but since I ended up dying that one time that we went to, that, in the last episode when I said we were dying, I died when I went to a training area that Adelie had recommended. I was a little nervous about going back there again, so I ended up going to another area to level up for the training area, and that all sounds so stupid, and it is. I don't know, I guess at this point in the game, there was just, whatever. Just need a little extra leveling. May the stars shine upon you till the end of your journey. That was something Pyrrhus said all the time in the original Dot Hack series. I was actually thinking, since this whole episode is just gonna be like a super speed through of a couple of areas we did, that I did. I was thinking maybe this would be a good episode to talk about, the first generation of Dot Hack in terms of story, because the more I play GU, I thought it was like a game that kind of stood on its own, like you didn't need to play the first series to really understand it, but the more I'm playing it, while I still feel like it's something that stands on its own, the more I kind of think there's a lot in it that's just better experienced with knowledge from the first series. So I thought that maybe this would be a good episode to maybe talk about some of the original series, since there's not going to be any cutscenes to interrupt or anything like that. Before I do that, though, I did want to mention this, since this is the first time I'm really showing it off. I went to trade first at some point in this Let's Play, and there was nothing in the spaces to trade. I didn't realize you had to click on the empty space to see their inventory, and then you get to choose what's in there. So basically, if you meet another person and you want to trade for something, you can look through their items and their equipment, and you choose what's there, and you'll put it in the that big empty thing when you first talk to them, and then you'll go into your inventory, and oh, did I not trade anyone? I don't think I traded anyone in this one. Well, so much for that. Yeah, and in this area, I'm also gonna just be skipping all of the, since this has absolutely nothing to do with story whatsoever, I am gonna skip, like, I'm just showing the highlights of what happens, like anybody I run into, any lucky animals in Mecha Grunty, or the, anytime I level up in battle or anything, but, yeah, so going back to the original Dot Hack series, the original Dot Hack series took place in 2010, and I think it was released around 2001 or 2002, so a lot like when GU came out, it was like a in the not-so-distant future kind of situation. It wasn't like GU, it was all the different, pieces of media in the original Dot Hack series didn't center around, one character or one story, and that was part of what I, oh, nice, new skill with Asao. That was part of what I liked about it. Like, the only thing in common was they were all stories centered in this online game of the world. And I guess in that, that universe, there was a big hack virus situation thing with the internet, and the internet had gotten to a point where it was like literally connected to every single thing everybody did, like from using like your banking stuff, operating stoplights and everything. So when something malfunctions, it's kind of like a super big deal. So it was like kind of like a chaotic time to be living, and it took a while before people got comfortable again to get to the point where they can start using everything without fear. So the world, the original version of the world, was like one of the first video game online games really to come out to really get people like excited to do something fun again. Because I guess it was just a situation where there wasn't like a lot in terms of fun happening on the internet. It was like a time of like being rebuilt and stuff like that. I mean, not from like the ground up, but like it was like this incident. I think it was called Pluto's Kiss. It really hit the population hard. So that, I feel like that's one of the reasons why the world became so popular. Not because it's like innovative in any way, but like it was like the first in a long time, and maybe even like one of the only MMOs at the time that people were really able to get into. So anyway, the world itself is an interesting creature to tackle, partly because I'm not 100% confident in my ability to explain all this, and since I've been so far removed from anime circles and whatever has happened to Dot Hack since the GU games, I may have outdated information, but I'm going to try to tell you guys the best I can about what I know. So the world itself didn't originally exist as this game, The World. It existed as this a similar online game called Fragment, and that was made by a man called Harold Heroic. Harold was in love with this poet, Emma Wylant, I think her name is. Man, I forget last names or how to pronounce them or something, but she had written this epic poem called The Epitaph of Twilight, and she had died prematurely, and her poem was kind of scattered across the internet, in a Dragon Ball sense after the wish has been granted, I guess. So people had come to like kind of piece together like fragments of the poem that they found. Harold was in love with her. She didn't love Harold, but she used Harold to kind of bring her poem into like a new light. So Harold had created this game Fragment that was supposed to be based around the Epitaph of Twilight. And in Fragment there were many things that was mentioned in the poem. Probably the biggest thing was this the main enemy was like a force called the Wave in the poem, and the wave came in 8 different phases. So the 8 phases, I think, were originally supposed to he built like programs around the 8 phases, and they were supposed to gather information from players like behind the scenes while they were playing, and they all kind of related to different states of emotions. And all of these pieces of data were supposed to be brought together to and I guess be managed by like, I guess you can compare it to like a god of the game world, like an ultimate like overseeing AI called Morgana. And all that information was supposed to be gathered and put into like another entity called Aura, which was supposed to be like what Morgana was trying to incubate or something like that. Aura was supposed to be like this metaphorical daughter that Harold and Emma could never have. So it gets kind of creepy in that regard. But once Morgana kind of like became self-aware of all that, she started messing some stuff up inside the game to kind of prevent that. Harold had actually... Jeez, I don't know. It's so convoluted. Harold had either, like, copied his own personality data and implanted it inside an AI inside of Fragment, or I don't want to say it was something as stupid as transferring his consciousness altogether into the game, but, you know, with Dot Hack, who knows. So he was trying to stop Morgana from the inside like that, but, you know, that didn't really work. Over time, this company, CC Corp, had bought out the rights to this game and transformed it into the world. But they couldn't get rid of stuff like the phase data and Morgana and Aura, so they just kind of like let it go inside of there, and no one could really contact Harold to like get a hold of this kind of information. So CC Corp was just kind of like, let's be super irresponsible and just run with it. At some point later, and I guess here I'll talk about the anime Dot Hack Sign, which I guess which predated the original series of games. Dot Hack Sign is kind of about like the awakening of the girl Aura, the birth of Aura, or whatever you want to call it. It starts out with this character named Tsukasa, who wakes up and finds that he is trapped inside of the game, the world. Like, he's, I don't know what you want to call it. He's been sucked into the game, or his consciousness is inside his player, or something like that, and he's experiencing the game like he would in real life. I don't know. The thing is, though, Tsukasa is a super depressed, kind of unstable kind of person, and throughout the series you'll see like flashbacks to the real world and some of the abuse he suffered to kind of get an idea of why he's actually has no problem with being trapped inside of the world. So one of the main goals of the series is some groups of people got together to try to figure out why Tsukasa is trapped in there and why how to get him out. And a bunch of other things and mysteries start popping up. Like, they start introducing how there's some monsters that can't be damaged normally and they're invincible. Rumors about this legendary item called the Key of the Twilight pop up, and everybody kind of makes a race to try to find it. It's supposed to like be this. They think the Key of the Twilight is going to be the key to get Tsukasa, you know, be able to log out and go back to the real world, since the whole thing with the Key of the Twilight is supposed to be it just kind of like surpasses any kind of the system parameters or anything like that. So throughout all of this, it kind of leads up to seeing Morgana play with Tsukasa's emotions to kind of corrupt and warp Aura into something that she's not supposed to be, but that ends up failing, and Aura is awakened and born, and that kind of like passes off the torch to how the original series of Game Beasts begins, which consists of a completely different set of people. Some look like characters from Dot Hack Sign, but they're kind of palette swaps, or, you know, either minor differences or like bigger differences, like clothes styles or genders or hair colors or something like that. It's not too important. But anyway, the Dot Hack original games follows this kid Kite, who is the not creepy version looking of Tri-Edge. And on his first day playing, his friend Orca takes him to do tutorial stuff, and they see Aura being chased by one of the phases. And they follow her, and Orca ends up getting data drained by that phase, and the real-life Orca is put into a coma. So Kite begins his own little investigation on what's going on in the world. He looks out to the forum for help, but system administrators delete that data. He meets this girl, Black Rose, who we got this random email from earlier in the game. And they team up. Kite inherits this power that Aura has, this ability to do data drain against different enemies to get virus cores needed to hack his way into forbidden areas and stuff like that. he meets a bunch of characters along the way. I'm not gonna go into like a whole big overarching plot thing with the original series. Oh, by the way, this is where you can fight different people if you see areas like this. It's not always safe, because sometimes you'll find a super powerful PKer, but here you can save other players from other PKs, and you'll get rewarded if you win. Sometimes they're even just getting fought by monsters. But anyway, so Kite goes on this whole big investigation into what the world really is and everything like that. He is confronted by phases one by one. Aura is broken up by that original phase that was facing her, and Kite has to go find different pieces of her and put her back together. Along the way, this other monster called Kubia comes into play. He's like the shadow of Kite's bracelet. They fight a bunch of times. The world gets more and more messed up. There's a lot more hacking stuff involved in the original series. So you'll like hack your way and rewrite monster data to transform them to other things. You'll use data drain to kind of eliminate that invincibility effect that some of those monsters I mentioned were starting to get. You need data drain to even defeat the phases in the first place. So there's a bunch of stuff like that, but over time the world starts to deteriorate. Like, you'll see pieces of the game's graphics just like stripped away, and you'll see like ones and zeros behind everything. You'll see a bunch of random letters and symbols flying through the air. You'll meet characters that are like broken up and have like parts of themselves missing, both mentally and physically. You'll run into like this uber hacker called Helba. That's a completely different story altogether, and she helps you solve all this. You get to working together with a CC Corp employee. There's a lot that happens in it, but I guess the big thing to take away from all of that was, I guess, the girl Aura, because in the beginning of this game, you see Shino talking about Aura in that cathedral, which was also present in the original Dot Hack series. So coming into this game, that for a new player, that just may be like, okay, well, that's just a random fact, but like, if you've played the original series, this leads to all sorts of questions, like, where did Aura go and everything like that? Because one of the things you'll see in the forums is that, CC Corp had a massive fire at their headquarters, and most of the data for the world was lost in that fire, so they had to build the world from the ground up. But what does that all mean for all of that, like, information about, like, phases and Aura and Morgana and all that kind of stuff? Well, you know, I guess we find some of that out as we go through the games, but that's all going to seem like just random information that pops up that just maybe, like, I don't know, why is that like the way it is? And I skipped over like a ton of stuff. I know I'm running out of time for this video, but I did kind of want to give like a brief overview of some of the things that happened in the first generation that I felt were kind of critical to understanding some things in the GU generation. Again, I think GU stands on its own as its own thing, and I'm not gonna, you know, go back on that, but, you know, I guess going forward I'll try to keep a better eye out for some things that I feel may be better understood for those that have played the first series. I know one of the entrants himself is going to be one of those opportunities, but I'm not going to say any more on that until we get to that point in the game, because I don't know. Dot Hack is confusing to summarize and explain. I'm sure someone could do a much better job, but hopefully I got, you know, some kind of information across. So next time on Let's Play Dot Hack GU, I'm crossing my fingers, guys. I'm really crossing my fingers. Something story-wise is going to happen to kind of make this a little more exciting.